Welcome back to Dish and DAS Administration 1 course FR-100. My name is David and I'll be your instructor for this module. In Module 5, we will discuss publishing desktops to production. We will examine the publishing process and steps taken by the platform to update a pool. You will learn the differences between a regular publish, a quick publish, and a test publish. Lastly, you will learn about sandbox cloning. Let's begin. So what exactly is publishing? Publishing is the process that prepares and promotes your sandbox or golden image from a readied state and makes the virtual machines and applications available to your end users. You typically will perform a publish operation after updating the operating system, installing new or updated applications, or when you make configuration or policy changes that must be rolled out to a production pool. Remember that persistent desktops are assigned one-to-one VM to a user, and that once cloned from the golden image, new publishes do not affect changes to desktops that were already created from the previous sandbox state. For non-persistent pools, the publish operation is more relevant as the cloned VMs are short-lived as they are assigned to a single session. I will be talking about non-persistent desktops for the rest of this lesson. As an administrator, being familiar with the technical workings of the publish steps will benefit you in understanding the behaviors of the platform. In other words, what is happening behind the scenes? This can be of great benefit when planning your desktop updates and troubleshooting potential problems with a publish. After you initiate a publish operation, the frame orchestration engine begins by cloning the sandbox image to what is called a shadow pool. This ensures that any users in an existing production session are not interrupted and continue to use their current VM for the remainder of that session. Once that session ends, the original backing VM is replaced with one from the shadow pool. Any other VMs that are not in a session are terminated and replaced based on the capacity settings of the instance types that are configured for this frame account. Because the frame platform is leveraging a shadow copy process, this means that if you change your mind before it completes, the publish operation can be canceled. As a best practice, it's strongly recommended to publish during off-peak hours when user sessions are at their lowest point to avoid possible disruptions. To illustrate the publishing workflow, let's follow this chart. So let's say you have just finished making your changes to the sandbox. The base operating system has been patched, cleaned, and sealed. First, you power off the sandbox machine and click Publish. The system will automatically create a restore point backup and label it with the current timestamp. You should see this backup appear in the Backups table, and a new publish task will be listed in the control panel's task list. Next, the shadow VMs are provisioned in the cloud infrastructure with the new image. It should be noted that these are clones of a cloned sandbox VM or our backup image. Lastly, the production VMs are promoted from the shadow pool to replace old VMs. Because a sandbox can publish to more than one VM instance type, the publish operation will be performed on multiple production pools. This is configured in capacity settings for the frame account. It is important to understand this feature because it is different from other platforms where a single pool is mapped to a single VM disk and virtual hardware profile. For example, say you have a set of users using two CPUs with 8 gigs of memory for normal, everyday tasks. Let's call this Group A. But you also have a small set of power users, Group B, who run beefier applications that require 8 CPUs and 32 gigs of memory. In this scenario, when you click Publish, both sets of users will receive the changes to the pool. This can greatly reduce your administrative workload of having to maintain two entirely separate images. This also means that it is now a one-click publish for both sets of users. You don't have to configure it this way if you don't want to. Some customers prefer to keep different application sets and users in different frame accounts. However, this example illustrates the flexibility and simplicity the platform can provide. There are two types of publish operations that you need to be aware of: regular and quick publish. By default, Nutanix AHV infrastructure will use quick publish, and public cloud providers will use regular publish. So what makes these different? A regular publish will create new VMs based on the max capacity for each configured instance pool. Once all new VMs are created in the shadow pool, the existing VMs will be terminated and new user sessions will start utilizing the new VMs. In the case of public cloud, these newly created VMs are powered on and ready for use immediately after creation. For Nutanix AHV accounts, Newly created VMs remain powered off and unavailable for hosting sessions until existing VMs are completely terminated. Quick Publish will create new VMs within each instance pool up to a specified amount, 10 by default, before any existing instances are terminated. Once this number is reached, these VMs will be powered and available for new sessions. Once the Quick Publish process is complete, any other existing VMs will be terminated. The system will continue to create the remaining new VMs until the capacity maximum is reached. Customers should ensure that their AHV cluster is properly sized to support the additional number of powered-on VMs created during the Quick Publish process. So now that you know a bit more about the publishing process, let's talk about a workflow feature that provides for user acceptance testing. What do I mean by this? What if you made a change to a system policy or configuration of the operating system with the potential to impact your user's experience? How can you test your changes with a small subset of users before rolling out to the entire pool? Frame provides a test publish feature which allows you to do just this. When publishing to test, the sandbox is cloned and published to a separate set of instances that are isolated but environmentally identical to production. Your test users can log into a launchpad specifically assigned to this test pool and report back. Depending on the outcome of the testing, you might decide to roll back by restoring the sandbox from a previous backup. Or if all went well, you can promote the publish into production. So far, you have seen two workflows for publishing. In the earlier slides, I showed you the publish workflow for a single frame account with multiple instance pools, and in the previous slide, we looked at how a test publish can be used to create a user acceptance testing scenario for a single frame account. But what about using the same sandbox image across more than one frame account? This can be accomplished using a feature called sandbox cloning. The frame control panel includes menu options to perform these clone operations manually as needed. There are a variety of use cases for this feature, and I will not cover them all here. In the example diagram, we want to simplify how we publish to multiple pools and also support the use of a disaster recovery site by using a single image. This is beneficial as it reduces the need to manually make changes to images on both sides of the DR, as well as using a single sandbox image for all users in all of the production pools. Starting with our development sandbox, changes are applied, then published to test. Following the test publish workflow, accepted changes are then published and cloned to multiple production accounts. This can all be automated by leveraging the Frame Admin API. Please note that this example is an advanced use case that may require customization using APIs. Be sure to refer to the documentation on how this can be accomplished. While disaster recovery is a highly sought-after capability, it requires proper planning, implementation, and testing to get it right. Wrapping up Module 5, you learned that publishing prepares and clones the sandbox image to a set of shadow pool VMs into production. The Frame platform follows a series of predefined workflow steps to prevent disruption of existing users and ensure success of the operations. You also learned that a quick publish differs from a regular publish in that instances are terminated once a specified number of new VMs are created, whereas a regular publish waits until all VMs are created. A test publish creates a separate test instance pool, which can then be rolled back or promoted depending on the result of the test. Lastly, you learned that cloning a sandbox is an easy way to copy an image to one or more frame accounts. This concludes the lesson module. Be sure to check out the other videos in the series that make up the full course. Thanks so much for watching.